Gentle songbird, sing your song out for me. Paint the world in light. Earth you know is calling. Sing your song, gentle songbird. Sing your song out for me. Paint the world in light.
In one lifetime, we changed the world.
We choose to go to the moon.
We traveled to the moon. Invented machines that think and added 20 years to the average human life. We learned how to move goods, ideas, people further and faster than ever before. And quietly, steadily, we connected everything. A world that was accelerating before our very eyes meant more demand for food, for materials, for energy. So we built the networks to meet it. Global, efficient, and always on. Through those same networks, a different industry was taking hold. Illegal logging, illegal mining, the illegal wildlife trade, worth billions. Our flight routes, our shipping lanes, our technology, our financial systems, all turned against the natural world at industrial scale. In just one lifetime, we have pushed entire ecosystems to the brink. When nature fails, economies follow. But there is something hidden in this story. The transport routes they exploit, we build them. The financial systems they hide in, we run them. The technology they use, we created it. That means the power to disrupt these networks is ours. In one lifetime, we created a world that can move anything, anywhere. What we move through it next is up to us. Welcome to the United for Wildlife Business Forum. Please welcome to the stage your host, June Sarpong.
What an incredible way to start this morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the United for Wildlife Business Forum 2026. Thank you all so much for being with us. And a huge special thank you to our composer and multi-instrumentalist, Tendai Humphrey Sitima, and his fabulous musicians, Onawukubu and James Taylor. Can we give them another round of applause? So over the next hour, we'll hear extraordinary stories from people working across conservation, business, technology, storytelling, and global leadership. But at its heart today is about connection and the responsibility we all share. The choices we make, the systems we build, the things we choose to value, they shape far more than we often realize. So we begin where life begins, of course, with biodiversity.
Biodiversity is the web of interdependence through which all life sustains itself. Every species plays a role, and the loss of one can reshape the entire system.
Wow, wasn't that incredible? I know, right? So, our first speaker has spent years documenting the natural world for the National Geographic and bringing audiences face to face with the beauty, fragility, and complexity of life on our beautiful planet. Through his work, he has seen firsthand how the loss of even one species can affect the whole ecosystem, and why biodiversity is not an abstract environmental issue, but something deeply connected to all of us. Please put your hands together for Emmy Award-winning documentary filmmaker, Bertie Gregory. Bertie, will you join me?
Hey everybody, how are we doing? Good. Well, I know what some of you might be thinking. Why has Prince William invited some crap Justin Bieber impersonator to come and open his big event about saving the world? So this is a very serious event, right? But I'm not going to be taking it entirely seriously, because how we frame problems and solutions is everything. Because today, as environmentalists, our strategy has been to tell people they've been very naughty and they need to stop doing things. You know, of course, people need to be held accountable for wildlife crimes. We'll get onto that later. But, you know, this whole movement to date for far too long has been surrounded with negativity. And the problem with negativity is it's very, very hard to inspire change. So I thought today I'd spend a few minutes telling you about a time that we humans got it right. Now, I've been making wildlife films for the last 12 years professionally, and I've spent 10 of those years chasing a rumor. Now, this rumor was that 50 years ago, the world came together in a very rare moment of international cooperation, and we banned commercial whaling. And so 50 years on from this ban, there was this rumor that the whales in Antarctica were starting to make an incredible comeback. Now, many crews have been down, film crews have been down, trying to chase these rumors, and all of them had failed. But I'm a bit delusional, so in 2022, I put together a team, and we went in this little 75-foot ice-strengthened sailboat, and we traveled south, and for the next 6 weeks, we rolled around, dodging ice and storms, and just when I thought my Disney Plus career was completely over, I lifted my binoculars to my eyes, and this is what I saw on the horizon. Huge jets of water, the blows of the whales, like cannons in an old sea battle. So I launched my drone, and I began to document the largest gathering of great whales ever recorded. 300 fin whales, with humpback whales, right whales, tens of thousands of penguins, albatross, and fur seals. Birds everywhere, it was chaos. We even got in the water to find out what was going on beneath the waves. And it was pretty spicy. They are very large animals. And there's me for a little bit of scale. Now, I realize I'm incredibly lucky in that I get to go all around the world filming wildlife. But everywhere I go at the moment, the guide, the scientist, the local person, they says, well, what you filmed on this particular expedition is amazing, but you should have seen how much more beautiful, how much more epic it was 20, 30 years ago. But this place, this is different. It hasn't looked this good for 100 years, since before industrial whaling began. This is what happens when you give nature the chance. And if that isn't justification for looking after wild places, then I'm not sure what is. Our society needs to realize that looking after nature isn't just for tree huggers or whale huggers like me. It's for all of us, because people benefit from a thriving natural world. Now, more recently, I spent a couple months camping next to an emperor penguin colony. Now, it was very cold and smelly, and that smell wasn't actually because of the penguins. It was because I'd gone 51 days without having a shower. That's a new personal best for me. Wouldn't recommend doing it before coming to something like this, but there's no showers there. Now, while I was there, a very bizarre series of events led me to document something that had never been filmed before, because a group of emperor penguin chicks took a wrong turn on their way to the ocean, and they found themselves at the top of this 50-foot high ice cliff. But instead of turning around, and finding somewhere else to take their very first swim, one decided to jump. But this brave little leader wasn't alone. Soon the rest followed, and they all started to pour off the ice cliff and into the ocean. And after making an absolutely enormous splash, they bobbed back up to the surface, and they headed out to the horizon to become fully fledged adult emperor penguins. Now, when I saw this, it got me thinking. We humans are a lot more similar to these penguins than you might think. And that's because our species, too, is stood at the edge of a terrifying cliff. Now, we need leaders who are going to step forward, take that leap of faith when no one else will. And watch what happened to these little chicks. They didn't just survive, but they now have access to incredible new opportunities. And of course, the rest were following. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get to work. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Bertie. Let's get to work indeed. And I think Justin Bieber is a Bertie Gregory impersonator. So that brings us into our next segment, a focus on habitats and the environments that sustain life itself.
A habitat is life's first condition. A delicate balance of relationships where protecting one environment means protecting everything in it.
Our next speaker is an award-winning wildlife filmmaker and National Geographic explorer, whose work focuses on conservation, environmental crime, and the people on the front lines protecting threatened species and habitats. Please welcome Malaika Vaz.
Good morning, everyone. It's so amazing to see you all today. And I spend a lot of my time going after these criminal syndicates and telling stories about them. But what I've realized over the time of doing that is that very often what we see at the very beginning layer of the criminal trade syndicate pipeline is not what we're seeing at the very top. We are up against some entirely sophisticated networks that need to be combated. I spend a lot of time with these criminal syndicates, so it's great to be in a room full of people today who talk about supply chains for entirely legal reasons. Many years ago, I went into the field for a documentary with National Geographic following the trade pipeline in manta rays. We were initially investigating the trade in manta rays in India, but it soon became a masterclass on globalization as we followed the trade pipeline into China, into Myanmar, and into parts of Hong Kong. As an Indian woman doing this work, I found that when I pretended to be a seafood trader, very often they believed it. They believed that I was also on the criminal side with them. And so we were able to see just the scale of the wildlife trafficking pipelines in these landscapes. Not only are local communities being impacted by this because there are regional extinctions happening in their own backyards, but these animals can be really toxic for the people who are consuming them at the final destinations. I feel like very often we don't think about people at the beginning of the pipeline with a lot of empathy. Many people, like my friends here, are just trying to put 3 meals on the table for their families. They're just trying to get by and look after their families. And I think for these communities who are at the very beginning of the pipeline, giving them economic opportunity is incredibly important. But at the higher levels, we're seeing that having coordinated responses to these transnational criminal syndicates is incredibly important. For the longest time, we have indexed on stories about wildlife crime that often talk about traditional medicine in parts of Asia. But I think there's a much more nuanced narrative that we need to be diving into. A lot of wildlife crime activity that we're seeing across the world is also because of tourism. It's also because of the luxury markets of the world. These elephants have spent the majority of their lives in captivity being ridden by human beings. And this was a really beautiful moment where we saw that the elephant in the middle had been rescued after 25 years of living in captivity. And she basically had never known what it means to be an elephant. So when we were filming for this documentary for the BBC, we got to see her awkwardly walking towards the other elephants, really scared about whether she would be accepted. But they wrapped their trunks around her and immediately accepted her. These elephants got a second chance at being wild animals because of an organization called Wildlife SOS. But I think about all of the animals out there that do not get a second chance, that either spend their entire lives in captivity or are killed because of the global wildlife trade. Across our investigations and storytelling, one thing has become really clear. These criminal syndicates are able to operate because of their strong ties and their ability to have networks across borders. In this room, we have networks across borders, and it's so critical to be leveraging that for good right now. We can no longer work in silos. For the longest time, one incredibly powerful organization or corporation or nonprofit could be doing good work. Today, we need to make sure that we're really uniting, like the elephants in this picture, to come together and take on these criminal syndicates. Every single person in this room works with an organization that operates at a critical point in the economy. You have access to not just supply chains and to incredible technologies, but also people who are doing amazing work across the world. We're seeing that as the wildlife trade is evolving globally, we're also noticing that companies across the world are stepping up. They're stepping up to collaborate and find solutions together. As we have new technologies, we're also seeing that we're at a point where extinction is becoming increasingly common across the spectrum. And in many markets across the world, we've seen that when an animal is on the brink of extinction, the price increases for their contraband. And so let's try to make sure that we use the resources in this room to combat this massive extinction crisis that we're seeing across the world. I really love partnering with United for Wildlife because over the years of this partnership, I've seen how United for Wildlife brings in business leaders and corporations and governments and civil society, and also frontline defenders. I just spent time in the Amboseli ecosystem last week while working on a documentary and saw how Maasai warriors are now using cutting-edge technology like telemetry and thermal drones and geofences and AI to combat wildlife crime. We've got incredible defenders in the field who are risking their lives every single day to protect nature. And from our positions of privilege, I think there's so much more that we can do to protect the wild world. So today, as we look towards the future, I wanted to take a minute to have a video on screen that can celebrate everything that this network has done over the past 10 years. Thank you.
10 years ago, an unprecedented coalition came together to fight the illegal wildlife trade. Competitors became partners. A network that has steadily grown. Today, that network spans the globe. Global banks track criminal money using AI. Intelligence gets shared internationally. From Hong Kong to Colombia, Singapore to the United Arab Emirates, hundreds of investigations are supported worldwide. Hundreds of thousands of frontline staff are trained to spot signals. Cargo handlers, airline crews, port staff, bank analysts, all working together to disrupt the trade. Zero-tolerance policies are rolled out by businesses, refusing to deal with anyone suspected of being involved in illegal activity. Tougher sentences, landmark law changes, global policy shifts. Ranger Protect Insurance is launched, protecting rangers across Africa. When animals are discovered thousands of miles from home, members of the network collaborate to return them to safety. But environmental crime is evolving. To stay ahead, we need to keep evolving too. New partners, new systems, new technology. A decade of proof. A future worth fighting for. Join the network. Nature can't wait.
Indeed, nature can't wait. And what that video shows us is the power of collaboration, which is what today's forum is all about. So, our next guest is someone many of us have grown up watching. She has consistently used that platform to speak about equality, education, and the environment. Today, she joins us not as a conservation expert, but from the perspective of someone who has recently returned to student life and is still learning and asking questions, much like many people around the world who are beginning to understand the scale and impact of environmental crime for the first time. She'll begin with a poem reminding us of the everyday love and value of nature before joining me and our panel for a conversation. Will you please put your hands together for an incredible woman, Emma Watson.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's so lovely to be here today. I'm going to read you a poem by one of my favorite poets, Mary Oliver. The Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is, but I do know how to pay attention, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, and how to stroll through the fields, which I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild, precious life. Thank you.
Wow.
Mary Oliver.
I want that on tape so I can just listen to that all day.
I will record it for you.
Please, you heard it here. So tell me why you chose that one, because obviously Mary Oliver is amazing.
My earliest memory is of my father waking me up in the night and opening his hands and showing me a baby hedgehog.
Wow.
It's the first thing I remember, and it felt so precious and like such a miracle. And whenever I read Mary Oliver's poems, it takes me back to being a child who is just completely blown away by whatever it is that I'm being shown.
And in awe of nature.
In awe.
In awe. Well, speaking of being in awe, that moves us onto our next section. So our next guest joins us ahead of a wonderful premiere that he has tonight of Open Planet Studios' powerful new documentary exploring humanity's relationship with nature. Before I invite him to the stage, let's take a look at the trailer.
Some have said if it doesn't work out on planet Earth, we can live on Mars. That'll be fun. How about first we try to figure out how to live on Earth? Can we really change the whole planet in a positive way? Nature's ready to help us turn things around.
This gives me hope that we can protect nature for the future.
This is kind of a blueprint for a future that I want to live in.
Welcome to the world's greatest how-to video.
Benedict, please join us. As the kids would say, Benedict, hashtag what he said. All of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yes.
Well, I'm looking forward to chatting more about the film, but I'd like to welcome our final panelist to the stage, the visionary behind United for Wildlife. It was founded with a simple but powerful belief that only by working together across sectors can we tackle the illegal wildlife trade. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please join me in welcoming His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, Your Royal Highness, and thank you both to you, Emma and Benedict. Emma, I'd love to start with you first, if I may. Can you tell us when, how, and why you became so passionate about wildlife?
Well, if it's all right, I'd like to share a story, which is slightly at my own expense.
Okay.
It was very early on when I just got cast in the Harry Potter films, and my mother lived in fear that at some point the press were going to figure out where we lived. And one morning she cracked open the windows of the living room and saw that there were all of these men outside with very long lenses. And she thought, oh, today's the day, it's happened, oh my goodness. So she went outside to address the men with the long lenses. And I snuck out to go the other way, and it turned out that the men with the long lenses were actually not there for me. at all. They were there for
what a shame.
a very rare bird, which is called the red kite. And they were trying to basically break into my back garden because they thought that one of these red kites was in our backyard.
Wow.
And so the lovely ending to the story is that my mum eventually allowed these men into our home and into our back garden to go and see these birds. But the really cool story is that the red kite population was almost extinct in Oxfordshire, and conservationists have managed to bring it back.
Wow.
And if you ever drive through Oxfordshire and you look up at the sky, there are these amazing birds with these forked tails. They look like a kind of V, and that is the direct result of these incredibly passionate men with long lenses who wanted to break into our back garden. So that's an example of how it came into my life.
Well, sometimes, as you and I were talking about earlier, men with long lenses only rarely can be a good thing.
Yes, they can sometimes when they really care about birders. We love birders. Birders are great.
Well, it's similar to what we saw with Bertie's film, that actually when we do the right thing, we can bring nature to what she is supposed to be.
Yeah, and they were so I can't tell you how psyched they were about this bird. I mean, they just were so excited and in love. And I think it's through our love of nature and our love for these beings that anything is possible. And I've seen that.
Brilliant. Well, if that sort of beautifully moves me on to you, Benedict, in terms of anything being possible, can we talk more about your movie and what drew you to it?
Sure. Well, I'm not an environmental scientist. I'm not a professor or a documentarian, but I am a human being on planet Earth. And I think the world of what Open Planet do is a studio. They brought us some of the most extraordinary, inspiring, beautiful, and devastating images in wildlife documentary making. And when they approached me to front this very unusual and different strain of documentary, I jumped at the chance. You know, this is about positivity. This is about putting out a message that, yes, we've been a bit naughty, we've done things in the wrong way, but we are still a part of nature, not apart from it. Okay. And that if we learn to live in harmony with it, green is the new gold. Yes. We have systems we can reshape that will not only benefit the world that we are destroying through habitat loss, through species extinction and extraction of materials, but we can actually value nature alive more than it is dead. The elephant, for example, the tusk of the elephant, it's less valuable than an elephant is as nature's natural engineer, rooting up the ground, letting grasses in the savanna grow, which become huge carbon sinks, letting waterways flow, and pushing aside bush in the savanna. That then functions as an ecosystem, but also as a carbon sink, and the world benefits from that much more than ivory. So it's about trying to reshape the values. And I just fell in love with it. How to live on Earth, 3 things. How to feed our future. Yeah. Different ways of looking at scaling up the ability to have protein in our diet, and not scolding those that are in livestock management or ranching, but actually pointing to new ways of doing that, and also new ways of using that land and new ways of using protein. There is such a thing in this film as air protein. Not something I knew about before doing this film. Then how to value nature, putting a system online within economics to speak to this room in particular about what we need to structure a new economy where green is the new gold and its value in terms of what we place on it, in terms of the big story of money. And then thirdly, how to be human, how to feel human, how to connect with nature, how to realize that we are a part of it and not apart from it.
And nature is a part of us. Exactly. Thank you, Benedict. So, Your Royal Highness, if I could take you back to when you founded United for Wildlife, what was your vision and your hope for it?
10 years ago, sat with a number of these wonderful people in this room, we went to be as bold as we could be in terms of reaching out to a part of society that probably hadn't been included in all the conversations around nature and the environment. Many of them here care deeply about it personally, but in terms of their structures and their systems, it's very hard for them to pull all the levers to make the whole part of their business connect in the same way we would like them to have that transformational impact in nature and the environment. We started with 40 business leaders. We're now, as you can see, nearly 300.
Wow.
We started with transport. financial task force, and the aviation sector. And slowly but surely trying to identify and showcase really good examples of where businesses can accelerate and strengthen their supply chains, make their business more resilient to pressures, and showcase them when they think they're actually running an extremely good organization that's protecting nature. Actually, they have a number of holes that they weren't aware of. So it's been a bit of a learning curve for everyone and educating everyone in what is needed and where the support can be. The collaboration amongst the sectors has been amazing. Bear in mind, many of them are competitors. Yes. And so getting over some of those hurdles initially and saying, guys, you can be the change makers here. This is your planet to fix as well. And this can really, transform your businesses as well as protecting nature. That was ultimately the message of courage and resilience.
And also, I think the wonderful thing is it's also, as Benedict was saying, green is the new gold because it's also cost effective when you get the procurement right and all of the things that make our planet much more sustainable for business.
Definitely. So much of what we're going to talk about this morning is not necessarily about having a passion for nature, having a passion for the environment. This is stuff that will make your businesses stronger, better, more resilient, and also protect your reputations long term, where I know part of that is a strategic risk for all businesses. They care about who they're connected to, what's happening under their name and under their banner. United for Wildlife has been working with all of you for so many years in the task force to make sure that you're covered, you know where you're going, you know what your supply chains are doing, you know where your weaknesses are. And I think that's been a really, a two-way process where we've enjoyed bringing those people into a big family, but hopefully they've also enjoyed being taken on that journey and shown where they could make even bigger strides in their businesses.
Thank you so much for that. So, Emma, I love fashion. And I love the work that you do in fashion. So can you tell me where the overlap is in terms of how the fashion world and all of the damage that unfortunately it is doing to our planet overlaps with wildlife trafficking?
It's a huge overlap. 2 to 3 billion animals are slaughtered annually for fur, for exotic skins, for feathers, coral, ivory, you name it. And so that's the direct way that it's connected, but the indirect way is huge too, which is the fashion industry is one of the most exploitative in the world. It actually creates more emissions than aviation. It's the second most polluting industry after oil. I could go on and on, but as someone who actually loves fashion, and it's such a huge part of what I do, what's exciting is that this is a huge place where we can actually have impact. The wildlife trade is sort of the exploitative tip of the iceberg in a way. It's sort of the canary in the coal mine. But yeah, it's a place where we can have huge, huge, huge impact for people and planet. And we can really turn things around here if we actively engage and make active decisions as consumers and understand that our decisions and what we choose to buy makes an enormous difference.
A huge difference. And in fact, Benedict, you and Emma have been doing some work together in this space.
Yes, a little bit. With Prada and their Renylon part of their brand, which upcycles ocean waste plastic and landfill carpet plastic into a massive part of their line. And they then support conservation efforts around the world, one of which I was fortunate enough to visit, called Coral Gardeners in French Polynesia, where they are harvesting coral that's been heat or bleach resistant to any kind of weather event, and in a more hospitable environment, and then replanting that to recreate the ecosystems, the protection, and also the carbon sinking miracle that coral is. So yeah, it's that's one way of looking at it, but I think it's a lot deeper. Yeah. It's a lot deeper, and I think part of hopefully what the film is doing in How to Live on Earth is to give support not just to consumers to make their choices, but also to brands and business leaders, policy makers and advisors into how to reshape and restructure the storytelling to make this new economy actually viable, and not just something we do on the side to make things feel a little bit better whilst we get on with business as normal, because we can't do that anymore.
We can't. It's not sustainable. at all. So, Your Royal Highness, with that in mind, I want to paint a scenario for you, for our leaders that are in the room today, when they go back to their boards, inspired by everything that they will learn today, what is the one argument they should be making?
Oh, June, that's a tricky one. There's several arguments they should be making, but I think one particular argument is about what I was just touching on, which is the idea this is going to make your business stronger, better, more sustainable, more long-term health. We've talked about the competition amongst the sector, but actually that collaboration has been hugely impressive. And being able to depend on each other, support each other, find the gaps and the areas that you can partner on for the greater good, if you like, and for the health of your business is ultimately the most important thing you can do. I know many of you as CEOs, you do feel you have people you have to answer to above, you have people you have to deal with below, you feel a bit like the meat in the sandwich. However, you are the CEOs, you have the power to influence. Your voice matters in your business, your direction matters, and here more than anything, the leadership matters. Many of you are exemplary in what you do, but I think many of you could be even more ambitious and courageous in what you do for the planet, for the environment, and for the other parts of life that I know many of you get grief of when you go home from your children, which I've had many times, that many of them want to look themselves in the mirror when they wake up and know that the business that they're leading is something that their children would also be proud of in the future.
Indeedy. Well, we only have a few minutes left, unfortunately. And so I think it's only right that, with the theme of your film, Benedict, being one that is optimistic and hopeful, I think it's only right that we close the panel in that way too. So, Emma, first from you, what's a moment or a line of optimism you want to leave our audience with?
I suppose I would just encourage businesses, brands, storytellers to really be encouraged by what can be done. I don't know if anyone saw Finding Dory or if their children saw Finding Nemo, but I love this example and story of this film, which as a result, all of these young people were so horrified by the capture of Dory, that the blue tang fish is now protected by conservationists and by children who love this fish alike. Storytelling is really powerful, and the story that you tell as a brand and the transparency you have and the way that you talk around these issues, it matters. It matters to young people. And I would just, and the last thing I would say is be an emperor penguin. Like be the emperor penguin. We can be the emperor penguin. Things can be done, and so many good things are being done.
Thank you. Benedict?
Just that it's time to make some positive noise. It's time to make people in this room and beyond it, the people that you're helping in your business, to believe that you can have agency in a time where the problems and the obstacles seem absolutely insurmountable. It's not true. We can all make a difference. Every single one of us, from what we wear, what we consume, how we force change within our business and our communities. And we can do that by convening in moments like this and through storytelling. Hopefully my film will be able to be accessible for all of you and YouTube later on in the year, as an educational tool to give people the confidence to make real world change.
And green is the new gold.
And green is the new gold, yes, of course.
Your Royal Highness.
I think be the leader you wanted to be when you were growing up, not the one you are in the business right now.
Wow.
Touch into what you were when you were a child and what you wanted to see in the world, and bring those values to light as a CEO. I think more specifically, technology and innovation, we're seeing such a change in that. Please embrace that for the good. There's a lot here that we can do that can protect the planet and your businesses and everything in the same way. And the last point, it feels really important we end on this point, which is that the nature defenders that the other speakers were talking about, those people risking their lives day in, day out, protecting nature's front line, they are the reason we're all here talking about it, because they are protecting and holding the line for the special, precious things that we care about all around the world. And we owe them a sense of duty that we look after that for them and protect them, and we have a duty to do that.
Indeed. Well, thank you all so much for your commitment and your passion to protecting our planet and making our world better for the next generation. So thank you all very much. Can we have a round of applause for our panel? Emma Watson, Benedict Cumberbatch, and His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales. Thank you.
The agreements that shape our world are made by those who choose to stay at the table. What we decide today does not stay in this room. It cascades into all the decisions that follow.
We now move on from understanding the challenge to exploring what action actually looks like in practice. How do organizations respond? How do industries move together? And what turns commitments into momentum? Our next speaker has spent her career at the highest levels of global finance and business and is one of the leading voices helping organizations rethink the relationship between sustainability, risk, and long-term value. Please welcome Marisa Drew.
Well, I have been reflecting as we started our morning, and I often hear people say that finance, the world of finance, is so exciting. And then you go see a video like Bertie just showed us, and I think we're decidedly unexciting. But what I do promise to do is to tap into my inner child, because that was the challenge Your Royal Highness gave us, because that sense of wonder when you saw the spouts of those whales make me want to keep going. So, where do you and how do you start a movement, June? You started with that. Well, first of all, it starts with someone with a big vision, and we certainly had that with United for Wildlife, thanks to Your Royal Highness. But then you have to find a few willing acolytes, and I'm pretty sure you found those in Standard Chartered. And we were very, very proud to have been a signatory to the Mansion House Declaration in 2018. And I think all of you might find a little familiar face there, a dear, dear ex-colleague, David Fine, who showed some very strong leadership in helping our organization rise to the occasion. And what did we do? When we signed the declaration, the first thing we did is to say, how do we galvanize our 85,000 people and rally behind this big commitment to use the power of our financial institution to see what we could do to tackle illegal trafficking of wildlife. And I have to tell you, as soon as that press release went out, we started to get emails from across the organization of people deeply proud that a bank like ours was going to take some action. And then what did we do? After we did the internal job, we said we need to go external. And we created a campaign, which I think was quite novel in the day, where we linked the concept of illegal trafficking to a bank like ours, challenging, creating a motion about how it isn't good enough, which linked into our brand, Here for Good. And that's how you create a movement. So now where are we today? So one of the things that we learned as being part of all of this is that this started in our financial crime group, which we call the second line in a bank. We learned a lot. We learned a lot about where the nexus of wildlife crime happens as we were using our power and our tools to identify where the hotspots are in terms of the types of activities and sectors where there are intersections. But what now we want to think about, instead of, which Mansion House did very effectively, is had a challenge to arms of the financial services sector to come together in our vertical. Now we want to go wide. We want to go across industry and figure out how do we create those linkages between what we do and who we serve, and how we can use the power of our balance sheet to nudge behavior change and tackle those gaps that Prince William was identifying for us. So that is the next stage of our journey, and today we're deeply, deeply proud to say that we're going to double down on our commitment with UFW. So my dear colleague Nick Lewis, who is the head of Financial Crimes Partnership and Engagement, plus an additional employee who is part of our financial crime surveillance, are going to be part of the new steering co, or the refreshed steering co of the task force. So that is what we're going to do externally, and we're going to work together to figure out how do we work with those clients who have the strongest nexus to where activity happens, but also have the power to do the most change. And we want to now convert a lot of this thinking from the second line to the front line. So the new commitment is as well that my organization, which is considered the front line, every time we think about the provision of finance, we're going to challenge ourselves to figure out how do we go from using the law as a stick to balance sheet as a carrot, to incentivize those actors and players to come along the journey with us. And we want to put a call to arms to say that we're biased to lend if you want to come on that journey with us. So I think that's how we can link up. And how do we do something like this in practice? With the wonderful technology that we have today, we use geosatellite technology to take a look at where hotspots are when we're considering making a loan. Do those loans, does that activity align with our environmental and social practices? If it doesn't, or if we start to see spots of activity in a given sector, we can partner up with those clients of ours to go in and tackle that as a precondition to our lending. So now we're converting from the second line to the front line. So whether it is in the mining sector or where we're using tech to see areas of deforestation in a natural park, we're often, as a bank who is helping to develop infrastructure to bring prosperity to people, we're going to make sure that we don't let that prosperity occur at the hands or the suffering of the natural environment. So with that, in closing, I think we can create a movement now vertically, inside, outside, front to back, and we'd like to invite those partners, those dear clients of ours in the transportation sector, in the mining sector, in aviation, like my dear friend at British Airways, who are already clients of ours, and I know who absolutely are committed to tackle this. We can do it together, and our deep belief is through partnerships and radical collaboration, we can make real systemic change. So thank you very much, and I look forward to the journey with all of you.
Thank you very much, Marisa. We very much look forward to that journey as well. So it's now time for us to move on to our quickfire commitment section, where C-suite leaders from major global businesses step forward to make practical and ambitious commitments to tackle wildlife and environmental crime. You'll see a live countdown clock projected across the room for each statement. And when that timer starts running low, I expect all of you to help keep them honest and quick. So if I could invite Esteban, Kate, Carrie, and Andrea to the stage, please join us. Welcome. Take a seat. So, going first is Esteban Castano, CEO of TRM Labs. Esteban, are you ready? You can stand up. In fact, you can come here. How about that? You ready?
Let's do it.
Great. Your time starts now. Go.
All right, we're announcing an unprecedented collaboration with leading crypto companies to disrupt the financial rails behind wildlife trafficking. Wildlife trafficking isn't about animals, not to the criminals. To them, it's about money. It's a global business run for profit. And so our idea is simple. Let's make that business unprofitable. Let's claw back that revenue and drive up the costs. We're going to do it in a few ways. So first, we are standing up a dedicated team of analysts to map the financial networks linked to wildlife trafficking. At TRM, we specialize in tracing how criminals move money around the world, especially in cryptocurrency. People think that crypto is anonymous. It isn't. Every transaction is recorded on a global ledger, blockchains. We take that intelligence and we link specific transactions to illicit activity, Law enforcement has used our data to disrupt terror networks, disrupt ransomware groups, return hundreds of millions of dollars to fraud victims, and now we're pointing that data to wildlife trafficking. Last year, we used this data to unmask a network in Southeast Asia moving rhino horn, ivory, tiger parts. We traced $15 million linked to cryptocurrency. But that's just one case. We can take this data and leverage it at scale. The first is, again, mapping those networks, linking the transactions to wildlife. Second, we're expanding the Beacon Network. This is the largest public-private partnership built to freeze illicit assets. It brings together more than 60 of the world's largest financial institutions, over 50 law enforcement agencies. In its first year, it's already frozen $50 million tied to fraud, hacks, terror financing. And here's the one that I'm most excited about, June. With United for Wildlife, we're launching Project Pangolin. It's an information sharing platform for all of us in this room to share data sets, intelligence, selectors. That's what we're going to do. Map the assets, freeze those assets, share what we've done. Together, we're going to make this business unprofitable and stop it for good. Okay. Thank you.
Esteban, you had a few extra seconds at the beginning. So Andrea, you're going to need to be even quicker than him. I would say, next up, we have Andrea Lattimore, who's Global Director of Compliance and Business Integration for Vodafone. Time starts now.
Against the clock. And before, I just want to say what an amazing event. It's incredibly humbling. So that's took 3 seconds of my thing. So Vodafone. So for the past decade, Vodafone, Vodacom Group and Safaricom have been proud to support United for Wildlife through M-Pesa, which many might not know is Africa's largest mobile money platform. This partnership really matters because wildlife trafficking is not just an environmental issue, it's also a financial crime issue. It exploits people, it exploits financial systems across borders. This is why M-Pesa can make a huge difference. It has vast scale, vast reach, and its financial crime capabilities across Africa means that M-Pesa can provide an important opportunity to help identify suspicious patterns, strengthen controls, and reduce the ability for criminal networks to misuse financial services. But the key for me is technology is not enough. The challenge requires partnership, intelligence, and sustained action. United for Wildlife plays a vital role in bringing together organisations across many sectors to share insights, build capability, and respond effectively to illegal wildlife trade and the financial crime that it enables. Our continued support will focus on 3 key areas, just checking the clock. Firstly, strengthening screening, monitoring, and intelligence-led controls to really identify environmental crime. Secondly, embedding United for Wildlife insights and red flags and typologies so that our training and awareness and monitoring activity is the best it can possibly be. And thirdly, deepening our collaboration through shared intelligence, senior engagement, and great active participation in the United for Wildlife Financial Steering Committee. Our message today is simple. Vodafone remains committed to using its technology, financial intelligence, and partnership to disrupt criminal networks. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. That was 10 seconds over as well, but we let you have that. Okay, so next up we have Carrie Harris, who is Director of Sustainability at British Airways. Carrie, all yours.
Pressure's on for the time. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Your Royal Highness. So aviation, I believe, can be a huge force for good, but unfortunately, it can be and is exploited for the illegal wildlife trade. This is a real and growing issue. Last year, in 1 month alone, the UK Border Force seized more than 250 shipments containing illegal wildlife products. That's why, for us as an airline who operates with more than 40 million passengers a year and over 500,000 tons of cargo each year, we take our responsibility to tackle this incredibly seriously. So what we're doing is taking action on 3 main fronts. Firstly, with our colleagues, we have appointed over 200 wildlife champions who can help be our eyes and ears. We've trained them in how to spot the signs of risk and in how to report them, and they're sharing that with their colleagues. Secondly, we're reaching out to our customers to help improve detection and reporting again. And today, I'm very excited to announce that we have gone live with a campaign in Terminal 5 today in partnership with United for Wildlife, UK Border Force, Heathrow Airport, and JCDecaux. We are showing this to our passengers for the first time. We believe it's the first campaign of its type globally. We'll see how this goes, but we believe this can scale to many more airports beyond this. Next, but also still thinking about our customer-facing opportunities, we've been showcasing United for Wildlife content on board our aircraft for many years. But this year, I'm again excited to announce today a new hosting of the incredibly powerful Guardians series, which is showcasing the work of these frontline rangers who are risking their lives to protect wildlife. Incredible work. And lastly, oh no! I need time for this. We have to bring in the dogs. Please meet Zach and Gio. So these are 2 dogs that we've helped finance and additional training at the Namibia Centre in Kenya, where they are helping with the canine detection unit, preventing cargo before it gets on board aircraft. More to do, but thank you.
And last but by no means least, we have Kate Brand, who's Chief Sustainability Officer for Google. And your time starts now.
Thank you so much for having us here this afternoon. Your Royal Highness, Sir David Fine, it's such a pleasure to be here with you. And it's incredible that we are already marking a decade since the Buckingham Palace Declaration. And as founding members of the Coalition to End Wildlife Trafficking Online, Google has been dedicated to this mission for many years. In fact, our work goes all the way back to 2016. I remember when we hosted our first industry gathering in our Google offices in Silicon Valley. And fast forwarding to 2018, when we were able to launch our work, initially working with organizations like WWF to create policies for Google for how do we prohibit content online, how do we train Google volunteers to be our cyber spotters to spot illicit networks with that human interaction. And of course, today, AI is going to be transformative in accelerating this work. So for example, we are using AI to enhance proactive detection. We are helping by drastically reducing the availability of protected wildlife online on services like Google Shopping, where elephant ivory is becoming far, far less available. This work also extends beyond our own platforms. We have Google.org, our foundation, who's given grants to the UN and Cambridge, for instance, to advance AI to help communities to protect wildlife over exploitation. AI is also transforming how we are protecting species. We're doing work like our species distribution model that's helping us to streamline how we are doing field work. I got to do field work with another National Geographic explorer, Fernando Trujillo, tagging pink dolphins. We can make this work so much easier and faster with AI. We have models like Perch that enable us to do bioacoustics to locate critical species like the plains wanderer bird in Australia to do this much more effectively. So lastly, I would just close by saying we are at a critical moment where we have tools that can both vastly accelerate our work on the positive to protect species, but also we need to do much more effective defense. So we're honored to be here with you today, and let's do much more work together to go further and faster. Thank you.
Thank you, well done to all of our speakers. Yeah, those extra 20 seconds, no problem. So our closing keynote comes from someone who has spent decades making the case for urgent action on environmental change and holding governments and industries accountable for their response. As Vice President of the United States, founder of the Climate Reality Project and co-founder of Climate Trace, he has shaped global conversations around climate accountability and leadership for more than 2 decades. It is my honor to welcome Nobel Prize winner Al Gore.
Thank you very much, June, and to His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, thank you so much for inviting me to this event. It is such a privilege to be here today with so many distinguished guests. The network that United for Wildlife has built with hundreds of members and partners across 6 continents is truly an outstanding example of the innovation and collaboration that all of us need to tackle the major challenges of our time. Over the past several decades, as the planet has warmed, species have disappeared and Mother Nature has cried out her warnings. We have learned, or perhaps relearned, a simple truth. Both human prosperity and stability in our climate system depend on ensuring that nature survives and thrives. More than half of global GDP, 55%, depends on nature. That's 44 trillion pounds, $58 trillion. And in Asia and the Pacific, a staggering 63% of GDP is at risk from nature loss. And that's just from our flawed way of accounting for nature from a human perspective. Our current system and finance and business does not properly value nature as it exists. That's long been known. Rather, it values the commodities that we can extract from it, which often requires tearing nature apart. The American ecologist and philosopher Thomas Berry once wrote, "The universe is not a collection of objects, it is a communion of subjects." And when short-term gain is incentivized over long-term sustainability, the ecological infrastructure of the Earth, our so-called natural capital, is severely threatened. We are now at risk of losing up to 50% of all land-based species in this century, and a like percentage at sea, which I'll mention in a moment. Illegal wildlife trade and other environmental crimes exacerbate and accelerate the already destabilizing impacts of the climate crisis and environmental degradation and the loss of habitat. In Brazil, home to one of the world's most important and biodiverse tropical forests, almost 90% of deforestation last year occurred illegally. Environmental crimes and illegal activities happen in the proverbial dark. But technological advances, as Kate just mentioned, for example, are providing early detection of this activity and offer leaders like those in this room the information they need to take action. A coalition that I was privileged to co-found and to chair, called Climate Trace, tracks and measures greenhouse gas emissions from more than 745 million emission sites around the world, including from land clearing, deforestation, and the dark fleet of ocean-going ships that operate by turning off their transponders, hoping they cannot be detected. One of our Climate Trace Coalition members, Global Fishing Watch, has found that an astonishing 75% of industrial fishing vessels are not tracked through the systems that monitor commercial ships. These non-broadcasting vessels are not only depleting fish stocks without any oversight, they also represent more than 17% of all maritime greenhouse gas emissions in 2025. And by the way, 40% of all shipping is, by mass, is lugging fossil fuels around the planet. The loss of species at sea and on land, coupled with the destruction of the habitats upon which they depend, are now pushing wildlife to the brink. And in turn, we are in danger of pushing humanity to the brink. The twin climate and biodiversity crises mean that events that were once considered extreme, an outbreak of zoonotic disease from animals to humans, a once in 1,000-year flood, we had 6 of those in 1 week last year in the US, a wildfire that consumes entire communities. These are all now, all too frequently, our shared reality. The predictions for temperature here in the United Kingdom 2 days from now is another reminder. All businesses need to assess and address their impacts and dependencies on nature. That work will range from tackling deforestation to reducing the disgusting illegal wildlife trade to addressing water scarcity and beyond. But across all of these areas, many of the core actions are the same, and that includes improving traceability, looking critically at your supply chains, swapping out suppliers for lower emitting suppliers, more responsible suppliers, and increasing collaboration to share best practices. We at Generation Investment Management, where I serve as chair, based here in London, engage deeply on these issues. For our part, we aim to lead our fellow investors in funding the ideas, companies, and projects which can help tackle these crises. As investors, we seek to support businesses working to decarbonize the agricultural sector and abate emissions through nature-based business models. This is work that not only restores critical ecosystems, but disincentivizes the illegal activities that hasten their destruction. The work that those in this room have done over the past decade shows that business can be a powerful force in disrupting environmental crime. Now, you need to scale that work, and we're watching that happen with all of the new members. Congratulations. So allow me to close with the words of a dear friend, the late, great Wangari Maathai, one of nature's greatest ambassadors and defenders. In her Nobel Peace Prize lecture, she offered a call to action. I want to close by quoting her words, and in doing so, offer that same call to all of you now. In Wangari's words, "In the course of history, there comes a time when humanity is called to shift to a new level of consciousness, to reach a higher moral ground, a time when we have to shed our fear and give hope to each other. That time is now."
Thank you so much, Mr. Gore, and An Inconvenient Truth, still one of the best lectures of all time, so thank you. As we close the forum, I have one final request, that we all leave all the job title, hats and silos aside for a moment and just indulge in a special gift. Our final guest is a Booker Prize-winning poet and novelist whose work moves between humanity's relationship with nature, responsibility, and a theme that we've heard quite a few times today, hope. He is a Booker Prize-winning poet, he's a novelist, he is an incredible human being, and he has created an original spoken word performance especially for today. Will you please put your hands together for the one and only Sir Ben Okri.
Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, special honor to be here today. 10th anniversary, same year my daughter was born. Very personal. The poem I'm going to read is called We're All Wildlife. Nature is beautiful, can't be denied. Do we know why? Mahogany trees in teeming forests, English elms whispering in the meadows, sunlight glimmering on the grass, cornfields in the moonlight, waterfalls they call the tears of a god, some unknown force behind it all. The emperor penguins fading from view, leaping into faith, the piano-playing spiders, juggling dolphins, long-flying birds, hovering bees, outsider foxes, and sarcastic wolves. Schools of fishes that turn and dart together in telepathic communication. Oaks that grow diagonally on the side of a hill. Some mysterious power behind it all. The earth responds with invisible nerves to everything we do. The future is not really ours, but hers. And like the trees, we will listen to the wind. Roots run deep in the busy earth, and they speak a secret language. I can show you magic in a handful of soil. Mushrooms have their mute lexicons. Great rivers like the Amazon are the serpent power of the world. A small fox in the undergrowth made me jump at its big presence in our narrowing world. Some unseen radiance behind it all. I heard somewhere that Earth does not respond to tears or to pleading. The angels say that Earth responds to voice. We're not to beg, not to be downcast at our own environmental neglect. We are meant to summon, meant to command our forces for the greatness of humanity. We do it in science, culture, business. It's there in our intergalactic dreams. You powerful minds that make gold out of your visions, command yourselves to replenish the earth, regenerate the rivers, perpetuate the wildlife, and cast the power of love over the endangered species that share our globe's magnificence, without whom we would be lost in soul, dead of heart. Command yourselves to be human angels of the earth and feel the immensity of being alive. Voice the earth. We are all the wildlife that we need to save.